Hey everyone, welcome back to the Into My Chill Void podcast. I hope everyone is doing well in this nice month of April. Hopefully the weather is warming up wherever people are listening from. I personally have had an interesting April with the weather getting warm and clashing with the cold. So just a brief story time. Last year in June or July, there was a storm that happened, and I don't know if it was wind or maybe lightning, hit one of our neighbors' trees and knocked one of their branches off into our backyard, and it ripped our electric stuff off the back of our house. And an interesting thing about that is we actually don't really have any trees in our yard. I think in the very back maybe there might be some bush type tree things. I don't really know, but we don't really have any up near the house. So the fact that it was a neighbor's and not ours really sucks. But anyway, so that ended up happening last year, and we ended up having the electric company a couple days later come by to check it out just to make sure things are okay. My wife went back there to check to see how bad it was a couple days later, actually, because she looked out the back window and things didn't look that bad, but when she finally went back there, it looked bad. So the power company ended up turning off our power, saying, I can't remember, he gave me all these technical terms that I don't remember and know what they are, but he basically said it could cause a fire, so they had to turn off our power, and it was at 10 p.m. And so we had to basically contact our landlord and get things moving to where they could get an electrician. And long story short, I don't know whose fault it was, but they ended up taking 5 to 6 days to actually get the electrician out to fix it. So we went without power for 5 or 6 days last year in the middle of summer, and it was hot and really sucked. Lost all our food and lost all my deep freezer meat, and that it really sucked. But I say that to say this: something similar happened. Not quite as bad, but again, this happened in June or July, so it hasn't even been a year since that happened to us. But we had a big storm, and this time it was bad for the whole town pretty much. And we ended up losing power for, I don't remember the exact time, but I know it was over 24 hours, so maybe 36 hours. I just wanted to let you guys know and complain a little bit about what happened and give context to why it sucks extra because of what happened last year. But besides us, I hope everyone is doing great and are not dealing with anything like that. But without further ado, we will get into the main stuff for this episode. And so I'm going to run the random number generator, and we will see what we're going to be talking about for our topic today. And the number we got was 23. So let's see what number 23 on the topics list is. Okay, so it is my top 5 Pokemon games. I'm really happy about this because I was getting worried that we were going to get another story time episode, and as great as those are, I did add other stuff on this list to mix things up, so I'm glad we finally got a top list. Though, because it is the first time I'm doing a top list, and depending on the topic, we don't know how long this will be, so we're gonna see. We're gonna see how the top list goes. So, my top 5 favorite Pokemon games. This wasn't the hardest list to make, except for my number 1, which I had to try to figure that one out a little bit more, but these top lists and tier lists I've already made up, so I don't have to do them on the fly, so the list is already set. And tier lists are also already made. Except I haven't, for tier lists, I've just made the stuff we go over. I haven't actually put tiers on them. But without further ado, we will get into number 5, which might surprise some people. My number 5 favorite Pokemon game is Pokemon Colosseum for the GameCube. I do have to preface this list actually on the fact that anything past Sun and Moon I have not played because I went blind after that, so anything after that will not be on this list. So yeah, Pokemon Colosseum, a very interesting game. I love this game a lot. It broke the formula for how previous Pokemon games went, and I really love it. It was the first, to my knowledge, the first 3D Pokemon game, like fully in 3D. And so, a couple things about the game that are just different is that the protagonist was a lot like the oldest one we've really had. I think he was 17. And not only that, but he just had this different kind of cool aura about him. And that he was previously a villain. And up to this point, we really hadn't had much older protagonists in the Pokemon games, as well as just how darker this game was compared to the other ones. I mean, the whole Slowpoke tail thing in the second generation games was pretty messed up, but like as far as mostly a tone that you felt, Pokemon Colosseum delivered with like the whole, like your protagonist being a character that you wanted to really love because he was just the coolest we'd ever seen. He was a villain. I do wish in the story they would have fleshed out more of his backstory, or maybe how he got into being evil and what made him want to change his ways. But what we got was still cool for the time, having to catch Pokemon that had been turned into Shadow Pokemon and trying to, make them better. The entire game being double battles, which is good and bad. Sometimes it took a long time to get through those double battles, and there were so many because there's not wild Pokemon. It was just filled with so many trainer battles, so it can get a little bit tedious, but that's just how it was back then. Just how the story went. It just required a lot of battles to begin with. So with a unique protagonist, a cool dark feeling, a new type of story, and just a different Pokemon game in general, with cool areas, and the soundtrack is really great. With all that combined, I just really love Pokemon Colosseum and what it did, and that's why it is my top 5 favorite Pokemon game. The number 5. My 4th favorite Pokemon game is Pokemon Fire Red. This one is a good bit of nostalgia, just like everyone else growing up with Pokemon, getting to see the anime and then see the games and actually be in Pallet Town and get to go through Kanto with all the first 150 Pokemon. It was really cool for the time, and then they updated, the first games that came out. They're like, Pokemon Yellow was really cool for what it did. And then Fire Red and Leaf Green with the updates from the 3rd generation just made it a complete kind of game for me. The sprites and graphics and everything got updated, and move lists got updated. They even added extra content at the end of Fire Red, which was really cool. They moved where Moltres was, which didn't make any sense. The fact that he was just chilling in Victory Road because they didn't know where else to put him, but now he was actually at a place that made sense. There's not a ton to really say about Pokemon Red, it is just the first of the games updated, and for what it is great, and I have great nostalgia for it, and I love it, but it doesn't really have anything crazy with it at the end of the day. I know there is the Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee, and Pikachu games that kind of redo the first gen a little bit. Although it's not exactly the same because the Pokemon are actually on the field and you don't actually battle wild Pokemon. You just throw the Pokeball like in Pokemon Go or whatever. So in some ways it's not quite a remake people may have wanted. And in others, I'm sure people love it a lot. So I don't know. I don't know how I would really feel about that. There was a lot of stuff in it I didn't really like, but I think it still would have been a decent experience. But at the end of the day, I probably would still have preferred Fire Red. So that's kind of where I stand with the fourth favorite Pokemon game in my list. I love it a lot, but it's pretty bare bones, right? But so we will get into my third favorite Pokemon game, which might be controversial, and I have a good bit to say about my third pick because I actually love it a lot and think it is underrated, and that is Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. Specifically, I played Pokemon Moon, and I played through it I think 2.5 times, and then like I said, I went blind and couldn't play it again. But so that's my last Pokemon game played, and I love Pokemon Moon for everything it did. Yes. Did it have flaws? Yes, just like all the other Pokemon games do. It had its flaws, but it had so much going for it, and I don't know why people hate on it so much. So first of all, people complained that Pokemon had been doing the same thing for a long time, which it had. So they finally do something different, and then people hate it. And then they go back to the same old with what? Pokemon Sword and Shield? Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which I don't know anything really about those two games, but from just what I've heard, they went back to the same formula, even though people had complained they wanted something different. So it's just weird and doesn't make sense. And for what Pokemon Moon was, it was different and fun. You got to do the Alolan Islands, and I thought the Alolan forms were cool. Some people might see it as lazy, so they didn't have to come up with as many Pokemon, but I thought it was really cool because it gave a different spin on some Pokemon that I personally liked, but it elevated them, like one of them to like me loving it a lot, which is Alolan Sandslash. He is just so much cooler as an Ice-type Pokemon, an Ice-Steel type. It just gives a new spin on some old favorites. So I wasn't really mad at it at all. I didn't really feel like it was lazy, but I can see how some people would feel it like that way. The whole concept, of course, of like moving from each island to island to have these island challenges and then to face the Kahunas and the totem Pokemon, it was really cool. Yes, it was similar in a way to like gym leaders, but it was different enough that I really enjoyed it. And I just love the feel of the game. I love the soundtrack. The story wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't bad either. It was fine. The characters are cool. The areas are cool. I love the Pokemon. Just everything about Pokemon Moon, Sun and Moon, I just really love the vibe of it. And the beginning of it is super hand-holdy and takes a bit for you to become, I guess, free in the game, I suppose. But that's with a lot of games, and I will take note that is a problem, but I can get past that. The themes were just great. Can we also just remember that they took away HMs, so you didn't have to worry about that? Again, I love the music and just the feel it gave. I don't know. I love Pokemon Sun and Moon so much, and I just wish it didn't get the hate that it did. I really don't understand it. And of course, because people didn't like it as much, I don't think the Pokemon Company is really going to try much with new stuff in the main Pokemon games. I know they did like the Arceus series, and I don't know much about them, right? Because again, I haven't played them, but I'm cool people at least like that with them doing something different there. But with the mainline games, it's like, oh, if they do try something different, then people hate it. So why would they change it? So I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on that. But again, I just love Pokemon Moon, and it should get more love. I have no idea about Pokemon Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun. I don't remember what changes they did in those. I thought the normal games were fine, but I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know about the changes and differences to those. Maybe, I don't know, maybe those are even better. Who knows? I don't know. That was my number 3. So on to my number 2. My second favorite Pokemon game is Pokemon Black and White. Specifically, I played Pokemon Black, and an interesting thing about this game and why for me it held such a strong position. So I didn't have a DS or anything like that when the DS Pokemon games came out. So I completely missed them. I didn't end up getting a 3DS until I think 2013 or 2014. I believe it was 2013 because I got it and I got Pokemon X, and I don't think they had been out for very long because I was able to get a special Pokemon X 3DS. Missing out on the DS Pokemon games, I'd never played them, and I had fallen out of the anime, I think somewhere around the near endish of of Hoenn and Sinnoh. I think I saw a little bit of the Sinnoh season. I had never seen anything to do with the 5th generation. Didn't watch the anime, didn't play the games. So all the Pokemon in the 5th generation in Pokemon Black and White, for the most part, I didn't know anything about them. Also, something really cool they did, which this just worked perfectly for my situation, in Pokemon Black and White, there were no old Pokemon in the base game. I mean, I can't remember, maybe in post you can get other Pokemon. I believe that might be the case, but just playing the normal story, it was just all the 5th gen Pokemon, which again, I didn't really know any of them. So I basically had a Pokemon game where almost all the Pokemon were new to me, and that's all I was getting to encounter. So it was really refreshing, and I was playing a Pokemon game like a kid again. I didn't know anything, so it was really great. And so I have a strong memory and nostalgia for just that being a great experience. Not to mention, Pokemon Black and White probably has the best story in a Pokemon game. So, themes were darker and just the way things were with, the villain sort of that you faced. And it just, the music, it was great. Your character was a little bit older. I think they were 14. And just those darker themes and just having the best story combined with the situation of all the Pokemon being new to me, it just holds a special place in my heart. So I really love Pokemon Black and White. I know some of the designs for the Pokemon aren't people's favorite, and I can get that. It's not my favorite either, but there are some cool Pokemon in there, and I think with the style they went with, it really gives Pokemon Black and White its own identity, which just makes it stand out more. But that is also why it is my number 2. It's great. Give it a try if you've never played it. Now we're going to go to my number 1. My favorite Pokemon game ever. And on this one, I tried to make myself decide between the remake or the old one. I have so much nostalgia playing the 2nd generation of Pokemon Gold and Silver. And later I did play Crystal, but the main one I played was Pokemon Gold. This game blew my mind at the time with everything it had going for it. The day and night cycle. It added new typings, the steel and dark types. It added a bunch new Pokemon that were really cool. It added the phone feature, which is annoying, but it was cool back then. And then, once you completed Johto, you then get to find out you get to go through all of Kanto again. And that is really cool, and it's a time skip, so things are actually a little bit different in Kanto than the one you played before. So it is incredible in that way. And it's just so easy to start, just throwing up gold and then just starting the game, going through. I have done so many different teams. I have played Pokemon Gold to death. And so it's kind of hard for me to play it now. I have found a way. There has been some like screen reader type stuff that has been made with an emulator that lets me play most of Pokemon Gold. So I can play like that game here and there, but I've played it just so much that I don't want to anymore. But it still has such a like special place in my heart from when I was a kid, and I played it just so much. And with that being said, then there comes the remakes. And as I said, I had not played the DS game, so when I finally got my hands on one of the Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver games, I actually got my hands on Soul Silver. I even got it with a case, which was really hard to find. I really loved what they did with the remake. The remake was amazing, and that's why I had to try to decide which one I wanted to be my number one. I still love the original and with how it looked and just everything, but I have to kind of go with like Heart Gold and Soul Silver as my actual number one. And the reason why is it just has too many good updates. As much nostalgia as I have for the original, it just does everything better in Heart Gold, Soul Silver. The graphics are better. The music is made better. Pokemon get to follow you. Move lists are updated. The physical special split happens here. They add the Safari Zone back into this one, and so you have access to more Pokemon you otherwise wouldn't have. They have some extra mini-game stuff. They have the Pokeathlon, which is pretty fun, and you can get items from that let you trade to get Pokemon that you may not normally be able to get, because those items were a pain to get in the past, like a metal coat. You had to like get to the end of the game to get a metal coat. Now, of course, I know you still need 2 3DSs to trade, so that part's not fixed. But it was still such a huge upgrade and just so many updates to this version, and the newly updated soundtrack with like National Park is so good. I had to just choose this one as my number one. It's just better in almost every way. I mean, I do think it adopts the slow movement from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I could be wrong about that. Maybe this came out after like when Platinum was made. I'm not 100% sure. But so that was a little bit annoying, but it was fine. It wasn't that big of a deal. Just everything was just superior. I love Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I wish I had Heart Gold. I've never played Heart Gold because, like I said, I bought Soul Silver, which I would have preferred Heart Gold because it would be easier to get to the Legendary. In Soul Silver, you have to go through caves to get to Lugia, and it is annoying, where it's a little bit easier, I think, to get to Ho-Oh. But yeah, still, overall, I love them. They even managed to throw in a little bit of Crystal in there with having Suicune be in there as well. So, which you had to play Crystal specifically. So it's just the perfect package of an updated Generation 2. And so that's my number one. I love it. I love the originals to death. Played it so much. I love the Pokemon. Just everything about it just hits, and then the nostalgia I have from childhood even till now. So just everything wrapped together. It is my favorite, no contest, and it will always be my favorite. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite Pokemon game and why? I want you to gush about any of your favorite Pokemon games. I want to know why you love it. Just gush about it. I love talking about this stuff with people who are passionate about the games and maybe from childhood and all that. So let me know which one you liked the most. But that's been it for this top list topic. Hopefully it went well. I guess I should have mentioned in the beginning that it wasn't going to be like a rapid fire top list. I was going to talk in depth about every single thing on the list. So hopefully that was obvious and I didn't need to explain that, but I'm explaining it now so in the future you know what to expect, because it isn't a podcast format. I'm not just making a quick top list video for YouTube. So yeah, that's it for this segment. Now, on to the chill fact of the day. The chill fact of the day has to do with the oldest instruments. The oldest instruments known were flutes. Bone flutes, to be exact. The oldest flutes range from 35 to 50,000 years old. In comparison, the first violin and guitars were made in the 1500s, the 16th century. And the first piano made was in the 18th century, in the 1700s. So the oldest flutes are way older than these other instruments. And that has been the chill fact of the day. It's time for Tidbits with Dylan. Don't try eating frozen ice cream with a plastic spoon. It will approximately break 95% of the time, and then you will be sad. Women are like a manual that can change its rules and conditions at any time. Men are like text carved into stone tablets and not easily rewritten. Now we are at the end. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and like I said, let me know in the comments what your favorite Pokemon game is. But that's been it for me and this podcast episode. Thank you all for listening so much. I will catch you in the next one.